It is People, Power, and Politics. Welcome back to Detroit's only nightly political talk show. Homelessness impacts people everywhere, and a group here in Metro Detroit is trying to do something about it, not just here, but around the world. Empowerment Plan CEO Veronika Scott is in Studio C with what they're doing. And Veronika, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
So this is something that's incredible. You and I were just saying, you know, it shouldn't be that anyone is opposed to this idea, but in our world of politics and divide and where we should divvy up our resources, believe it or not, there are people who don't fully understand the need. Let's begin there. Talk about your group and the need that it addresses.
You know, homelessness, the number of people experiencing it right now on a given night is 770,000 people across the U.S. That's the highest number it's ever been since we've been counting. Wow. And so I think the important thing to understand is this, I've been running Empowerment Plan now for almost 15 years, and we've seen many different kind of economies and what that means for people, but it has always kind of been contentious. People think that because someone is displaced, because they're sleeping on the street, they must be lazy, they must be addicted to drugs, they must have done something wrong to get there. And I think there's a lot of bias that immediately goes into seeing an adult in that position of need.
What a shame to demonize or vilify someone because of their circumstance, who, by the way, by the grace of God, any given one of us could actually be, if you skip a couple paychecks, be out on the streets.
All it takes is one thing.
Yeah.
We're a lot closer. You and I, anybody else is a lot closer than they'd like to think they are. So, you know, let's say a fire, which we now have seen across the country happen in many different, globally.
Sure.
That's all it takes for a family to completely be destabilized and need a place to stay. So it looks different. It could be a mental health crisis with somebody. It could be addiction. It could be job loss. It could be home loss. It could be domestic violence. We see that a lot for the individuals that we serve, because we focus on hiring individuals from shelters and housing programs across the city and employing them to produce this sleeping bag coat for those in need that we then give out globally. But what we've been able to see is just this massive increase over the last few years, and the need has just grown astronomically.
And so this, what you're providing, this sleeping bag coat, is an incredible piece that can actually change and transform the way someone can survive. Talk about that for a moment.
So Empowerment Plan began as a class project of mine in college. I studied industrial design, and that's how I started designing the coat, was actually with a shelter, a warming center here in Detroit called NSO. Big fan of what they do. And I spent 3 nights a week, every week, designing this product with them for people that were rough sleeping, that were sleeping out on the streets in the worst and the coldest weather. And how can we help you survive, and how can we prevent frostbite? How can we prevent loss of limb and life? And so if you can't get into a shelter bed, at least there's something there for you. And so that's how it began. And it quickly evolved into something much more. And
now it's growing and growing and growing. Talk for a moment about the reach and the scope of your project and how big it's gotten.
So in the beginning, it was, 3 people, and it was also about hiring the people that would normally be on the receiving end. There was one woman when I first handed out a coat that was yelling at me. She was screaming. She's like, "Look, I don't need a coat, I need a job." And I was like, "Well, you're right. That makes sense." And so it became about how can we hire people so that they may never need the product.
Oh, that's amazing.
And working from that point and saying, all right, we made the first 1,000 coats that year, and then every year we've increased and increased. And at this point, we've made close to 95,000 coats. We've distributed them across the entire U.S. and 22 other countries.
How can people at home help?
So there's many ways to get behind and support the work that we do. You can sponsor a coat for somebody in need. You can also sponsor the employment opportunities that we have for individuals that we're hiring from shelters.
What's the website?
EmpowermentPlan.org.
EmpowermentPlan.org. Listen, this is something that whether you're red, you're blue, we all have a heart and we all want to help people, obviously, Republicans and Democrats alike. This show's about politics, but we thought this was something important to bring to light. And even though it's going to get hot outside, it'll be cold before we know it. Make the donation. Good to see you. Thanks for your time today, Veronika.
Thank you so much.
What a pleasure.